And now we've got a special guest, Javed Rana, who's a journalist based in the Pakistani capital. He joins us to discuss Prime Minister Imran Khan's latest visit to Moscow to meet President Vladimir Putin. Good afternoon, Javed. Thanks for joining us on NewsHour.
Thank you.
Now, the Pakistani Prime Minister Imran Khan was in Moscow yesterday to meet with Russia's Vladimir Putin. Please tell us how this meeting went and what was on the Pakistani Premier's agenda.
I think this particular meeting was scheduled at least 2 months ago, and primarily it was designed to expand Pakistan's bilateral relations with Russia, and more specifically, there is a gas pipeline project of 1,000 long kilometers inside Pakistan, and Pakistan wants to give the contract of that particular project to the Russian companies. I think that was a critical part of it, but somehow or the other, this was coincidentally was happened at a time when the Russia started invading neighboring Ukraine. So everybody thought that perhaps Pakistan is going to join the Russian and China's bloc.
Okay, all right. Now we've seen Russia's support for India on many occasions. Is Pakistan perhaps trying to warm up to Russia to gain some leverage when it comes to international backing?
This visit is being seen in that context. Russia was opposed by India on Ukraine. While Pakistan's statement has been very soft, Pakistan did not condemn it. Pakistan said, we regret it. Pakistan supported a negotiated settlement. It's a very ambiguous term, and it means that in one way or the other, Pakistan is trying to strike a balance. It does not want to basically cause any anger and resentment in Washington and the Western capital, but at the same time, it wants to give a signal to the Russia to invest in Pakistan. But at the same time, if the Russian companies come under sanctions, the possibility of which is quite high, then I think it would be problematic for Pakistan to engage Russian gas companies in setting up the pipeline. But at the same time, Pakistan also sees that since India's relation with USA are getting very thick, it is a geo-strategic partner, and India has not come up with a kind of the statement that it should have come up with Russia, given the fact that with Russia it had a decades-long traditional ties. Pakistan, basically, I would say that in one way or the other is sending a message to the Russia that this is a time that it needs to look up to Pakistan. After 23 years, this was a visit by any Pakistani Prime Minister to the Moscow. That is certainly, it signifies something very important. And also Prime Minister Imran Khan is known to be leaning towards more Russia and China, and some people perceives him that he is somewhat anti-Western. I would say that he is an independent policy maker. He doesn't want to lean towards the West the way the previous governments did. He's quite a different man. At the same time, but I would say that Pakistan obviously is leaning towards China and Russian bloc, but it would not go outrightly in that bloc until and unless the situation come to a point where Pakistan is left with no option. Only in that situation, I think Pakistan would be joining a China-led bloc in this part of the world.
Okay. All right. Now, just in reference to what you're saying, the United States has also signalled a warning to Pakistan by saying that it has communicated with Pakistan and informed the government of its position surrounding the Ukraine crisis. So can you tell us more about Ned Price's press conference as Imran Khan visited Russia?
Well, I think that is also part of the reason that as we speak, Pakistan's foreign minister is explaining that this particular visit of Prime Minister Imran Khan was scheduled 2 months ago, and it was largely aimed at bringing Russian investment into Pakistan, and it was largely aimed at thickening ties with Russia, because Pakistan needs investment. Pakistan's economy is in a very bad shape, and part of the reason is that the Americans simply stopped the aid they were providing when they had occupied neighboring Afghanistan. Now the situation has changed, and Pakistan economy is suffering. It needs investment badly. Americans are not helping Pakistan. They are not bringing investment investment in Pakistan. Obviously, Pakistan would look up to China, Pakistan would look up to the Russia, and now amid these economic sanctions on Russia, I think it will be again very difficult for Pakistan to make its choices. But at the same time, I think Americans also understand the limitations of its influence on Pakistan. Gone are the days when Pakistan used to listen to the American the way they wanted during last 20 years when they launched so-called war on terror. Now situation has changed. And in a situation when China's relations with Russia are getting thickened, I think Pakistan is obviously would be seen in Chinese bloc, and that is something Americans don't like. But at the same time, it doesn't have that much influence on Pakistan. Everybody knows that the USA is no longer superpower as it used to be after its humiliating defeat in Afghanistan. Nonetheless, at the same time, I would say that Pakistan's export destinations are in USA, are in the European countries. So Pakistan does not want to jump onto the Chinese ship all of a sudden. It is expanding its economy until and unless Pakistan's economy is no longer dependent onto the Western destinations. I think then only Pakistan would be in a position to join Chinese bloc. If this Cold War between USA and the Russia, between the USA and the China, it gets thickened.
Okay. Now, Pakistan has also seen its fair share of wars. How difficult will it be for your region if President Putin does go to fully invade Ukraine?
I think President Putin has already gone for a full invasion virtually. I think that is already there. Now the bigger question is to what an extent the Western countries are going to impose economic sanctions. Partly they have imposed. Their impact would be more in the European countries and the USA. The gas prices would certainly surge. Pakistan would be affected to the extent that there will be surge in the oil prices and there would be more price hike in Pakistan. But overall, I would say, more importantly, I would say that the Pakistan would try to strike a balance. It has been sending message to the Western destinations, as Pakistan's foreign minister has been trying to do as we speak now, that it is not part of any bloc, but the West understands that since it is not providing the financial aid that Pakistan used to get in the past, it is not coming up with the kind of investment that Pakistan needs. So obviously the Chinese influence onto Pakistan is there. And you may recall just about a month ago, Pakistan did not join a so-called conference of the democratic countries. The Pakistan was invited by the USA, and the Chinese were very happy. And that was a clear indication that Pakistan is inching towards China's bloc in ongoing Cold War between China and the USA.
Okay. All right. Now, lastly, Javed, at this point, Russia is being sanctioned on the international stage. The West has targeted Russia's economy and its financial institutions. Now, will that impact Pakistan in the short or long term?
Well, it can impact on Pakistan. I think in terms of Pakistan's proposed projects, bilateral deals with Russia. Pakistan wants Russian investment in the country. They particularly wants that the gas pipeline project that must be set up by the Russian company. And I think that was a part of the agenda that Prime Minister was there in Moscow. That is possibly could be a problematic area if the Russian companies are sanctions, which are obviously are going to be sanctions. Then it will be difficult for Pakistan because Americans would come down hard on Pakistan. The European countries would come down hard on Pakistan. Pakistan's exports destination has been Europe and the USA, and the West can cause problem for Pakistan, and Pakistan will have to make its choices. This is certainly a problematic area, and the policymakers, as we speak, certainly they are considering these points, and that is why Pakistan time and again has been saying that Pakistan is not joining any particular bloc. And this visit of Prime Minister Imran Khan to Russia, it was planned 2 months ago. It was not designed at supporting the Russian invasion of Ukraine. It was simply a coincidence But nonetheless, the facts on the ground, the sequence of the events, the sequence of political and geostrategic events does indicate that Pakistan is gradually, maybe very slowly, it is inching towards China's led bloc, which obviously is likely to be included Russia. It may include Turkey at some point of time, and other countries in the region at a time when clearly US is using India and to contain China, and Pakistan has territorial disputes with India. We had 3 wars with India. Obviously, I think Pakistan would be inching towards Chinese bloc when it comes to making a choice.
Okay, Javed, thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you on NewsHour. Thank you.
The growing tide of anti-Israel sentiments. What you see behind me is just tip of the iceberg of what is happening in the country. More than half of $52 billion black CIA budget is spent on espionage network in Pakistan. How would you handle it?
The US has looked upon Pakistan as an ally at one point and then as an enemy at the same time.
That is going to be the first legal reason on the basis of which he is going to be instantly ousted by the Supreme Court of Pakistan.
Joining us live, Javed Rana, who's an expert on politics and geostrategic issues.
In the world politics, which is not being driven by any moral principle, it is being driven by the hard geostrategic realities. In a broader picture, more countries would aspire to have nuclear weapons.